Hi there. Welcome to this MBL webinar session looking at corporate fraud uncovered, how to value your business. My name is Dr. Stephen Hill. I wanted to start the session with a quote from the head of the Fraud Advisory Panel. This is Sir David Green, which really does highlight the issues that we're facing today when it comes to fraud. And if I could just read out his quote: weaknesses in counter-fraud systems, weak enforcement, anti-fraud measures, the ease of money creation with the UK, and frankly, the lack of deterrent in the UK, because the likelihood of getting caught is pretty low. Now, this refers to the UK. He then goes on to talk about London. So unfortunately, these things are combined to make London an attractive place for people who want to commit fraud and launder money. But I would actually suggest it's not just London, it is across the entire United Kingdom. So we are seeing an ever increasing situation when it comes to fraud within the UK. So before we go straight into what sort of frauds we're looking at, before we can even entertain how can we rectify the problem, it's just important we understand what fraud is. So fraud has many different definitions. There are many sources you could go to look at a definition. I've actually stuck with the one from the Action Fraud website. They define it as fraud is when trickery is used to gain a dishonest advantage, which is often financial, over another person. And the two key terms I've highlighted there is, or I want to bring your attention to, is the use of trickery and that dishonesty. We can refer to frauds in many different ways as well. It could be referred to as a scam, it could be extortion, it could be a swindle, it could be a hoax, it could be a ploy, it could be a ruse. One of the statistics I came across, again from the Action Fraud website more recently, has been that over 63 million was lost to victims of investment fraud who made a reference to a social media platform in their report. Now, I've kept that in there because it's really important that we look at, well, how are frauds taking place today? What are the triggers? What actually allows someone to commit a fraud? And we've seen in terms of investment fraud, which we will come back to in a little bit more detail later, it has been that someone has taken something they've seen on social media to actually give them the confidence to make that investment. And we're seeing, obviously, not just the utilization of social media, but as we'll explore later, the use of AI as well to make things more convincing than they ordinarily would be.